Hello, my friends. So today I'm going to be reading for you an essay that I wrote back in March of 2016, and it's about the concept of shape in relation to art and why modern symbolic artwork falls short in this regard, and why shape is so essential to art, in the creation of art, in the appreciation of art, and everything artistic. Shape is crucial. So the essay is titled, "The Shape of Modern Art." Shape is possibly one of the most expansive and yet basic concepts conceivable to human beings. And the famous art critic, Michael Fried, makes an interesting analysis of it in his paper Art and Objecthood. Fried states, quote, "Shape has been central to the most important painting of the past several years. But I ask, what great work of art has been shapeless? What could possibly be a focus apart from shape?" Fried explains that the alternative focus is what he sums up as the multi-part inflected art, which acts merely as symbols or representations for an abstract understanding. In this symbolic, inflected mode, it is not the thing itself that is crucial, but the ideas alluded to by the thing. As an example for art that is supposed to be based on shape alone, Fried uses the works of Judd and Morris. These works, according to the art critic, quote, "assert the values of wholeness, singleness, and indivisibility of a work's being, as nearly as possible, one thing, a single specific object." End quote. Instead of representing a more abstract relationship, this sort of art is itself the presentation, allegedly. Allegedly, the shape alone is all that is being offered for evaluation. For example, quote, "Morris's unitary forms are polyhedrons that resist being grasped other than as a single shape. Shape itself is, in his system, the most important sculptural value." This opposition to the inflected representational art is then the justification, or at least explanation, for moving away from realistic representative paintings on canvas, which are, according to the modern critics, only illusionary relics of European art. Fried would have you believe that these illusions are outmatched by, quote, "actual space, which is, quote, intrinsically more powerful and specific than paint on a flat surface." Here, the illusion of the representative painting is its definitive property, degrading its, quote, "inherent power," thus moving artists in the direction of painting polyhedrons, boxes, stripes, and splatters, all in the name of shape. It is interesting to me above all that Michael Fried, an art critic, along with the artists such as Judd and Morris, have had more thoughtful and nuanced discussions on the nature of objects than physicists and philosophers, who won't even touch the question of the fundamental nature of objects anymore. Physicists especially, since their claim is to understand and explain how objects work in nature, ought to be held responsible for a complete understanding of the very foundation of their discipline, yet they have not. So the artists have taken a go at defining objecthood, and they have stumbled upon shape. Nonetheless, this is a marvelous insight, in my opinion. All of our thoughts and ideas have shapes underlying them. Shapeless void is synonymous with nothing. To have things, and then to have ideas, some shape or form must come to mind. In modern times, we think in terms of symbols, words, numbers, and signs. But even those are said to mean nothing if they do not refer to some other thing, and not to another word or sign, but to a thing itself. And I think I am in agreement with Judd and Morris in saying that the shape is the object, or the thing in itself. I must admit, then, that I find it more than a little comical and ironic that the artists who place the most emphasis on shape produce only the most rudimentary and banal shapes imaginable. They produce stripes and polyhedrons and boxes and other elementary patterns, step back and say, "Behold, the power of shape." If Mother Nature were around to hear Morris and Judd whispering to each other about the power of their contrivances, she would not be able to conceal her amusement. For what resists the grasp of understanding beyond shape alone greater than Mother Nature herself? She is perhaps under our grasp in terms of shape alone, and even in this, we humans have barely begun to trace her rich contours. This is why I cannot understand the opposition against the representation of real objects. The objects of reality and of our realistic imaginations have breathtaking detail and shape, from the microscopic to the cosmic. Even relatively simple objects, such as a bowl of fruit, drawn on a two-dimensional canvas, are immeasurably more powerful than the dull boxes produced by Morris's ilk. If shape is the primary value, what about the shape of a beautiful woman at the height of her vigor in life? What about the shape of a mighty oak tree surrounded by a rolling meadow full of flowers? What about the shape of two men locked in battle to the death? What more do these scenes and objects need to represent to captivate an audience? For me, nothing more. The form alone is enough to bring pleasure to my senses. Yet, real and realistic objects also hold the sister virtue of representation. They can remind, relate, symbolize, evoke, enact real connections and real emotions that are connected to the real world around us and the real things that are really happening there, at the same time as being things in and of themselves, pleasant to view in a profoundly superficial way. I would suggest that the basic boxes of a Morris are not interesting for their shape, the way that a beautiful woman or landscape is, nor do they hold any real power of representation. I would suggest that Morris's boxes and other works done in the same spirit are actually interesting because of this pretense about getting art back to shape alone, and not because of their shape alone. So, Morris's art is just as inflected as any other modern art. They are, in fact, recursive and self-contradictory representations. They are things which are based in a philosophy that the interest of a thing is its shape, yet the interest of these things is not the shape itself, but the idea that a thing should be interesting by virtue of its shape. I think that we should be returning back to the traditional mode of creating objects that are beautiful in and of themselves. And that's the point of this essay. So thank you for watching.